Am I recording? Yeah, it looks okay.
And we are live.
From the industrial wastelands of Michigan to the fruited plains of Iowa, this is the American
Why
Green.
relate to his sheer perversity?
You are the dead. Remain exactly where you are. Make no move until you are ordered.
We burn them to ashes and then burn the ashes. That's our official motto.
Now we can see you. Clasp your hands behind your heads. Stand out in the middle of the room. Stand back to back.
Who can explain the fascination of fire? What draws us to it, whether we're young or old?
Here comes a candle to light you to bed. Here comes a chopper to chop off your head.
And welcome to the American Weed Factory podcast. This is Nathan.
And this is Conlon.
Tonight we're going to have our best of the year. I hope.
Our best year ever.
Our best year ever. Oh, here I got a stinger for that. Yeah, we'll be sued for that one.
Is that like some Shaw Brothers intro or something?
No, I think it was CBS.
Oh, okay.
Whenever they showed movies or something, it was mainly in the 80s that they did that. In that golden era of humanity.
Oh yeah, there's something in my craw a little bit. I'm talking about movies. Actually, I saw two docs that I thought were pretty interesting about entertainment.
All right.
First I saw Jim and Andy.
Okay.
Which is a documentary about Jim Carrey when he was on the set of Man on the Moon.
Okay.
And like how he did that like completely method.
Or he was trying to channel Andy Kaufman by just acting like him.
And it is fucking crazy.
Carrey's nuts.
Yeah, well, yeah, because it's like an interview of like this year, like from this year, and then it's like interspliced with all this footage that he shot himself with like a film crew while he was doing the movie. So that was just been sitting around for years and nobody did anything with it. So yeah, so it's him interviewing him now, and like he's very weird, of course, but it goes in interesting ways where like basically like. Why he's weird is basically everything he's dreamed up has happened. So, of course, he's going to be fucking weird.
Yeah. I have special power. I can make things happen.
But yeah, like it goes like pretty fucking crazy. Because like, so yeah, he becomes Andy. And so like if people talk about Jim Carrey, he's like, who the fuck are you talking about?
Is he a trained method actor?
No, he just decided to do this for this movie.
Oh, okay. All right.
So like Milos Forman is like coming up to Jim Carrey is like has to be like, can I please talk to Jim?
Oh. Like he's a multiple schizophrenic personality. Yeah.
This is how far it goes. So like their family, like the family of Andy Kaufman, like they allowed this movie to be made. They they approved of Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey like went so far into it is that like he referred to Andy Kaufman's parents like, hey, mom and dad. He talked to them like they were his parents, and he was Andy Kaufman. That's how far it fucking goes.
That's deep.
It even gets even weirder because apparently Andy Kaufman had some estranged daughter, and they don't show this in the movie. They just talk about it where she showed up on set one day to talk to Andy.
Boy, this is just weird on weird. I think there's a lot of sadness going on there.
Yeah. And then like even like they have like they show like Danny DeVito and Paul Giamatti like just kind of like looking at the cameras like I don't know what the fuck's going on here.
Yeah. Just kind of looking around like, okay, where are we going now?
And then there's some stuff with Jerry Lawler, which is like, it's like, is this a bit inside of a bit inside of a bit? Like, how deep does this go? Because like, they're interviewing Lawler, and like, they talk about like, they had this they're rivals, but but Jerry Lawler was talking about like, no, there's like this, when we're on the show we hate each other, but behind the scenes, like, we're friends. We work this thing out. But Jim Carrey was just antagonistic the whole time with him. To the point where like he spits on Jerry Lawler and Jerry Lawler like punches him in the face or something shit like that. And then
I was gonna say Jerry Lawler fucked Andy Kaufman up once.
And but then then he like has like the neck brace on and stuff like that. Like Jim Carrey has it like pretending like he really got hurt when he really didn't and stuff like that. It's like, is this another bit, or does he just really want Jerry Lawler to hate him?
Oh god. Yeah. Now was the whole body slam thing on Letterman? Now was that contrived or
yeah,
what?
they thought about that ahead of time. Yeah.
Okay. I was never. I never really followed up.
Well, yeah,
on it.
that was always a thing. That was back in the day. There's a term they use in wrestling, which I don't know where it comes from, called kayfabe. I don't even know how to spell it.
Okay.
But back in that day, basically, the persona you were in the ring was the persona you had to be in real life.
Okay.
And if you did not do that, if you broke persona, you would get fired and shit like that.
Oh, so no breaking the fourth wall in pro
Yeah,
wrestling.
yeah.
All right.
So yeah, yeah. So like, but yeah, Andy was a fan of wrestling, and he knew like, cause like, when he was doing that shit, like, I don't even think WWE was like a thing yet. It was just kind of all this backwater like Southern wrestling conference.
Yeah, it was a cage fighting, but not really. And
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't believe it was a formal like big money business yet.
But yeah, Andy Kaufman, he started out wrestling women and stuff like that. And then
Intergender wrestling.
yeah.
Yeah. I remember that movie. I remember I liked it, and actually learned about, because the only thing I knew about Andy Kaufman was from Taxi.
Yeah.
And then, but I know when he died, like everyone thought, oh, this is another Andy Kaufman bit. Like no, he actually died. There was always questions like, did he just go so crazy he couldn't be in public anymore and faked his own death? But Jim Carrey really weirded everyone out. And when was that? Like 93, 94 that movie came out?
I think that was like 2000 or something. I think that was post Truman Show, wasn't it?
Man on the Moon. No, that was I think I was still in high school, or I don't know. Let's use this computer thing. But I thought it was like early 90s.
I want to say it wasn't in the 90s, but I don't know. It would also be the late 90s. So I want to say Truman Show was like 98 or something like that.
No, it's 1999. Okay.
Oh, okay.
I thought it was earlier than that. I know it wasn't a huge success.
I think it did all right.
It made half its budget, but
Oh, okay. Well, they spent that much on it?
$8 million.
Oh, yeah, I guess you got to pay Jim Carrey like $20 million.
Yeah,
so.
Jim Carrey gets $25 million off the top to abuse your actor. Doing some weird method.
Well, yeah, it also got even weirder with, like, when he played Tony Clifton, because like when he was Tony Clifton, he was also a different character. So like, if you were in that mode of like referring to Jim as Andy, now you have referring to him as Andy. It's like, no, who's that? I'm Tony Clifton. Fuck Andy Kaufman.
That would get really annoying in the Who's the other guy that does that? That's real famous.
Guy who played Lincoln.
Dave Lewis.
Yeah, Daniel Day-Lewis. Yeah.
Does
Well,
that.
even like somebody, I remember somebody was talking about him that like, you know, like, yeah, when Spielberg's directing him, he has to refer to him as Mr. President, but then they can sit there as like, all right, here's the lighting and things like that, where it's like, like,
Oh, and he's not like witchcraft.
yeah,
Oh, yeah, that's a little too deep on that character. Well, I know when he was Bill the Butcher, he actually.
they listened to like language or like how people talk back then, and like reconstructed like how people talk. It was like a real guttural kind of sounding language.
Yeah, he invented his own accent because there were literally no recordings of like early to later American, like how people actually spoke. And I think they recorded like speeches on wire or wax tablets, but they didn't really, when they played them back, it was like, it wasn't really something you could judge. But yeah, I know Scorsese kind of let him like, you invent this character. Here's the outline.
And then the other doc I saw was called Too Funny to Fail.
Okay.
Which is about Dana Carvey when he did the Dana Carvey show. Do you remember the Dana Carvey show?
Vaguely.
Nobody else does either.
Yeah.
I think it got half season, but
okay.
That's where like Robert Smigel got kind of a start running the show. Actually, the ambiguously gay duo was actually like a skit on Dana Carvey show, and then they brought it over to SNL.
Yes, I know Smigel does the animation stuff, or he did.
Yeah, he also does like what's the Improv Comic Dog or whatever? What's that? Fucking
the insult.
Oh yeah, Trump or what?
Triumph.
Triumph, not Trump.
Yeah, the Russian insult comic dog or whatever.
Yeah, so like they go to the whole backstory of that, and like Louis C.K. worked on there, and of course Dana Carvey. There's some other big names that worked on there, like a guy like did a lot of producing with like Tina Fey. He's like won like Golden Globes and stuff. And then the big ones was Steve Carell and Stephen Colbert got their start there.
Huh.
Like that was their first gig.
Wow.
Yeah, I remember that being like just a really absurd show. One of the funniest moments of the trailer is that they're talking about like their lead-in was Home Improvement. And they're like talking about what a different show, like what is like just a slap in the face it was for like the Dana Carvey show. Like here's your lead-in family audience, and you're just gonna like slap them in the face like fuck your family values. Here's some comedy.
Here's some wholesome comedy.
Because I think they have some sort of record for like the drop off in the first 4 minutes of a television show or something. The audience drop off. Because the first skit they put on air was like some skit where Dana Carvey plays Clinton, and he's like grown tits to feed animals, and he's like feeding animals and stuff. Like this weird.
That sounds like something all those guys you named in their early careers. They were kind of bizarre.
Yeah. There's another skit. Like I only remember I remember they had the weird because the one I saw was like the mug root beer Dana Carvey show, because they had because it was supposed to be sort of like this anti-humor thing where it's like we're gonna have sponsors, but like we're not really, but it's not like we're sellouts. It's like the joke is that we have a sponsor for the show. And then of course they lost a sponsor like every show. It's like, oh, I guess we don't want to be a sponsor with this.
Yeah, Mug Root Beer doesn't want to. Like this is the best enema fluid ever.
I actually did something like that with Mountain Dew was on there, and like they're reading the ingredients to Mountain Dew out loud, like riboflavin, yellow number 5.
Polysorbate, that's got to be good.
There's one just like another basically like anti-humor skit called Grandma the Clown, where you see like this old lady dressed up as a grandma, and she has a walker, and like the 4 legs of the walker have clown shoes on it. And it's just like this old lady basically talking about death.
Yeah, it's like
to kids.
Yeah, just like happy looking stuff, but with like grim.
And it's like it's not funny at all. That's somehow it's funny. And there's a part where she like pushes a button and like to put a pie in her face, but like the arm to put the pie in her face like moves like so slow. It's just sad.
So that one didn't make it, huh?
No, that like ruined everyone's career. I think Dana Carvey just pretty much disappeared after that one. He went to go be a family man.
These movies.
But yeah, there's a great moment in the thing where they show like a commercial of like the lineup for like ABC that night, where it's like Home Improvement, and then like the the juxtaposition between the Home Improvement ad and the ad for Dana Carvey is so hilarious and out of nowhere.
Home Improvement, while being a funny show, is much more conventional sitcom. Yeah, I remember, now that you mentioned that and you've talked about this, I remember people saying like it was a super bizarre skit show that, like, why did they put it here? This has no place.
Well, yeah, I think like it would have worked anywhere else, but it was like prime time ABC television.
Yeah.
Like that's, I mean, they call Saturday Night Live the not ready for primetime players because sketch comedy only works like on a weekend at night.
Yeah.
When people are willing to like listen to it, or like on, cable television, like on weird times for like a weird audience, but like not prime time.
Yeah.
And like that, and that was when Home Improvement was like the #1 show.
Right. I remember Home Improvement was a colossus.
Oh yeah,
That was a huge show.
well, I loved that when I was a kid, but I also loved the weird Dana Carvey shit too. But like,
Yeah.
but you go back to that Dana Carvey show, there's like still something there. Like not Home Improvement, there's nothing there. It's just
No,
vapid.
it was a product of the time period. And I thought it was weird that Tim Allen never had any great success after that. And then I heard about him and I'm like, oh, okay. This is quite...
I mean, he had a pretty up and down movie career. Like he had like 3 like pretty big hits, and then kind of went away. And then he had that new show where he like, plays like some conservative, and they got canceled. And people are saying it's like, oh, Hollywood can't handle conservative values. Like, no, they can't handle a piece of shit show.
like bad TV. Well, and then he came out one on Fox News and basically was beating the drum for that chorus. Like, yeah, that's why they canceled me, because I'm conservative. It's like, oh, okay. So you're going to do a William Shatner on us, huh? Where you're going to just go nuts at the end of your life and stick your arm up in the air and Deutschland, Deutschland.
Well, did you ever see the show? His new one, Last Man Standing?
I heard about the controversy around it, but no, I didn't invest any time into it.
The only time I've seen it was like when I went to break and it was on in the break room.
Yeah.
And it's basically like, yeah, this guy's conservative. He like owns like a store or something. He has like a podcast and he talks to people, and like, or he has something, or like a YouTube show or something. And basically, it's like at the end of it, he's like, well, like, hey, black people are different, but we can get together. Like that's like conservative values or something like that.
Oh, I got some things I want to tell you.
It's basically about him, like, he's supposed to be conservative, and then like he ends up grinding up against like some liberal value or something like that, and at the end there's supposed to be some common ground that he comes with it at the end when he speaks to his audience or whatever.
Yeah,
but it's all just lame.
If it was great art, it would have. Who's the guy who did King of the Hill? King of the Hill was like that. Like that guy was kind of just your old fashioned, but it was, it was a cartoon and it was bizarre scenarios. But yeah, he was kind of a lovable right winger.
Yeah,
it's the only time I can think that really worked. Or Archie Bunker, when you're just like, what's he gonna do next? Archie Bunker's All in the Family is amazing to watch now.
Oh yeah. It's
like, could never put this on TV now.
Yeah, of all the things that are on TV now, you look at that, it's like they could never put that on TV.
Well, especially All in the Family. I didn't realize how
all the racial epithets that they just throw around.
And the thing was, it kind of because the point of the show was to show this guy as a curmudgeon. And kind of, you can see how it evolved into like, oh, he became like the heroic character, and his daughter and his son-in-law kind of came off looking as the whiny weirdos, and it's like, that's not what they intended it to be, but it worked out. But yeah, it was sort of it's an interesting. I watched a show all about that once. It's like, wow, I didn't know it wasn't supposed to be that way.
What else was there about that doc? Yeah, they don't have any interviews from Louis C.K. I don't know if they cut that out of there later, but they have appearances that he has when he's talking about the show, like on other talk shows, but they don't have any direct interviews with him. It's just mostly it's Dana Carvey, Steve Carell, and Stephen Colbert.
Yeah. Who knows why that was? That or they edited them out at the last minute.
Yeah, I don't know.
You know, Louis C.K. admitted to what he did, came out, apologized, and now everyone treats him like he raped an 8-year-old to death or something. It's like, well, we gotta calm down. This guy addressed what he did, and he said he was sorry, and he's probably not going to be doing it again or much of anything else. I don't. No one knows what the rehabilitation curve on all this.
Yeah, well, he's also the only one that just came out like, yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Everyone else just denies it.
Yeah, it's becoming a weird witch hunt. It's like who's the pervert? It's like everyone. Do they work in entertainment? They're perverts.
Well, that was the weird thing where like Louis C.K. like I don't necessarily make it make sense, but it's like when you're in this position of power, like people are willing to do things for you even against their own will, and like you can get caught up in like having no concept of that, I guess.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you want to watch me jack off? Okay. And like just because no one said no, it's like this must be okay. It's like, no, it's not okay. You can be a normal person. We're in a work situation. Nobody needs to see your dick.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been successful at all in my life ever, but I couldn't imagine that if I ever was, that the first thing that would pop into, or so, you know, part of my wheelhouse would be, yeah, we're gonna do whatever the hell I'm doing, and we're gonna make a lot of money. I'm gonna, you know, and there's gonna be a lot of weird sex stuff mixed in with it. It's like, oh, don't torpedo, don't sink the boat. But yeah, I don't know. It's weird. Power situations are strange. There's strange relationships there. Everything we're taught about how humans are supposed to interact change when there's a lot of money and you know, the potential of a really good life on the line. It's like, whoa, all that shit went out the door. Whether it's funny or not.
But yeah, I remember being like, it made more or less sense with like Tig Notaro because like Louis C.K. like put out her album when she got cancer. It's like this really great album because she's just talking about how she had cancer and like making fun of it. It's like it's really weird and oddly funny,
dark and funny and
yeah. And I remember there's a thing. So she has a show called One Mississippi, and there's actually well, I guess I'll get to that, but there was a point where when Louis C.K. this year he was on Saturday Night Live and there's this skit with a clown, something about like I can't remember what the clown does, but it's like a you order the clown to do things for you or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess she like made a movie about which was basically the same exact concept. It was like a short film or something, and she like blasted it on the internet like saying Louis C.K. was an asshole or whatever. They ripped this off. I was like, I don't think he wrote that. Like SNL writers wrote that. I was like, why is this? I thought they were friends. Why is this going public? And then there's an episode in the second season of One Mississippi where like her producer gets like called into like the office with this guy that owns the radio, or he's like one of the co-producers of like the whole radio station. Like she's supposed to be there to pitch idea for a new show. And then, like, while she's pitching the show, like, the guy just starts jacking off in front of her.
Jesus.
It's like, oh, that's what that's about later on.
That makes sense. That bizarre scenario makes perfect sense.
So that doc's on Hulu, so I don't know if you're going to find any other way to watch it, but it's on Hulu.
I might check that out.
Hulu's been having some pretty good content lately.
Yeah.
Because we watched that Future Man show, me and Andrew. That's pretty funny. And then they have this new one. They do a Marvel show called Runaways, which is almost good. The last episode, it kind of got bad, or at least really hokey.
It aspires to be good, I say, huh?
Well, it's a really strong concept where essentially, this group of kids, like their parents are in this group. It's supposed to be like some sort of like charitable group called the Pride. And then you find out like they're all a bunch of like they're all supposed to be supervillains essentially.
Okay.
And they discover all their parents are supervillains, and then they're gonna fight against their parents.
Everyone likes that story as a young person until they grow up and become supervillains themselves. Yeah, let's see, what have I watched on? Oh, I got through Stranger Things season 2.
Okay.
Seen all of that, and that was pretty good. I didn't have a problem with it.
I had some problems with it. I thought it was okay, but I really hate how it ended. I guess like the exact, because it ends with I can't remember what they call that monster.
Demogorgon?
Yeah, the Demogorgon. And like, they're at the dance and like it flips upside down and the Demogorgon's like staying over the school again all menacingly. It's like, I was like, lame, we're gonna do this shit again. So I thought like this gave them an excuse to get away from the whole upside down concept, because I kind of felt like they didn't do anything well with it.
Yeah.
Although I did really like Sean Astin and Paul, what's his name?
Paul Reiser did a great job in this.
Because like they really use like, because he starts out as like, you just kind of like graft his character from Alien onto this guy, because he's kind of the same way where he's just like some shill for like the corporation he's working for, but then he has like a character turn that's pretty interesting. So
yeah, you think he's a bad, well, Paul, he always comes across as like subtly manipulative, and but yeah, in this case it's like, oh, this shit just got serious. It was a good casting choice to have him. At first I was like, that's an odd pick, but John Astin was good. We knew where that was going, though. Yeah, he's gonna get killed. And the guy who plays the sheriff is always, he's gonna be the new Hellboy.
Yeah,
he'll be a good one.
I remember he's like played a security guard in that one show, Workaholics. He was just like this background guy for years, like weird schlubby background guy, balding, and then like now he's like he's just superhero.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, I enjoyed it, but I enjoyed it for being Stranger Things, which is all it is. They didn't really move anything forward a whole lot. No,
that's kind of one of the things there's a lot of like, I thought like missed potential. Like I really liked, what's her name? The mom.
Oh, Winona Ryder?
Yeah, Winona Ryder. Like, I wanted some weird backstory with her character as to why she is strangely adept at doing like weird, like supernatural investigation,
high order problem solving based on limited data. Yeah, that was
with arts and crafts.
Yeah. We're a crafty bunch.
Because like her character's basically like, she's just some poor, she got knocked up and she's been poor her whole life trying to raise these kids. Like that's kind of her story. Like I kind of want some weird, like she's some Russian spy or something and didn't work out or some shit. That's why she's like really good at this strange investigation. But I mean that wouldn't really work. But like I just like there has to be some
become lost then.
Yeah, but like I just like I want like some explanation or some like deeper story for why she's really good at this. Other than like, well, we have to give her something to do.
Yeah, can't just sit there and smoke.
I did like the one guy who was like the jerk from the first season. Now he's like the babysitter this season.
Yeah,
he's pretty good. I didn't like the new guy who's supposed to be tough. Basically like the Rob Lowe.
Yeah,
I didn't know the only thing I thought was like, is this character supposed to be gay or something? Is that what because like he did nothing the whole season.
Yeah, the older brother of the stepsister. Or whatever. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of 80s, the 80s camp themes that run through that series. Well,
I thought, I watched that. They did the after. They made an after show for.
Oh, this. Did they?
Okay. Yeah. Hosted by Jim Rash. So they had people on. That was an interesting thing. Like if you look for like, because this is the same time as the Reagan election and stuff like that. And so like you can find like if you look for it, there's like, because like the one kid who has like the missing front teeth, like you see his family is who's it, McGovern? Who was the
well, it was either Mondale or no. What would this be? 84.
Yeah.
It would be Dukakis.
Yeah, Dukakis. Like, so they have like the Dukakis sign out front, and they talk about how like, yeah, they're the underdog, so of course they're gonna be like Dukakis, like for Dukakis. Yeah. But then like you have like the affluent rich kids, and like of course they're for Reagan and stuff like that, and like the signs.
It wasn't Dukakis. It'd be Mondale.
Is it Mondale? Okay.
Whatever. Yeah.
Whoever like lost the biggest landslide ever.
He won his home state, and that was it. Against Ronald Reagan, who was a dangerous tit, or the greatest leader since
Lincoln.
Depending on who you talk to. I heard people say that out loud, like I was breathing air in the same room with people that said that. I was like, what? Wait a minute. History will look back as like, yeah, like 5,000 years from now, like when we're trying to guess who the good Roman emperors were. Basically, by how much their names appeared on the walls, like he must have been a good one. Yeah, that's the only time Reagan will stand up to Lincoln. But enough of that. We digress. Yeah, that was. I thought it was pretty good, but my expectations aren't huge either.
Well, I always want to ask you about. I always like check in with you. Is like what were you doing? Like, because this is kind of like this would be your like, you would be their age at this time. Around
I'd be 10 years old.
Yeah, so
a couple years younger than them.
Yeah.
Maybe 4 years younger.
So I was wondering like how much does the nostalgia play for you, or is it?
We did a lot of shit. I did a lot of shit with bikes.
Yeah.
There were a lot of bike type adventures. Bikes through the woods, running around, doing stuff. I mean, there was never any real danger in our lives unless it was like found Dad's gun. Other than that, though, I mean, there wasn't action and adventure, but there was all the running around doing stuff, a lot of bad information that we would argue about because there was no way to verify it. I heard this story, it's so there was a lot of this that because these kids didn't have anything else to do. They couldn't you couldn't go verify things or have friends in, like other countries on the internet. I mean, you just had whoever you were stuck with, and you found people that were similar enough to you, and seemed friendly until they turned on you and beat the shit out of you, because they wanted to be friends with other people. But yeah, that's, it hits the right notes. I mean, they're kind of reenacting, I think, because what movie set the tone for this? It was like E.T., of course.
Yeah, E.T. and Goonies.
Yeah, Goonies, which I never liked that movie. I don't know why I never liked Goonies. A lot of people did, though. But yeah, it hits the right note. I mean, I always look for anachronisms, like where are they going to get their information, or what kind of, and there are some things I think that are, but pretty much it's like, the kid has to go to the library and he's got so many books checked out he can't check out anymore because he's trying to research something, and you have to go find books about that subject. You can't just go ask Russian hackers, what is the truth? Tell you. You have to actually do stuff. So yeah, it hits the right notes. It reminds me of a time that was real. And then you had like the fucked up parent. Like you could have back then. You had people that just had fucked up parents. Yeah, you had people that they had no idea what their kids were doing. Just show up for dinner. Dad's drunk. Gonna beat the shit out of mom. It's like all that shit. You had people like that. People could live alone too. That you didn't have information about people unless you went to their house and found it out. There's a lot of these things these kids are doing and getting involved with. Like now, it's like, oh no, everyone would know, or there'd be too much twittering going on to keep secrets. I mean, now you could raise a huge posse. Like, we got to go to the Underverse and stop evil. Get like 500 kids.
Well, I thought it's one of the things that kind of like undercut this season, because the first season you watch it, and it's like pretty violent early on. Like, you didn't, like, people are just getting killed left and right, and it's like you didn't know what the fuck was gonna happen.
Yeah.
And this season, everything you kind of expected to happen happened.
Right.
There wasn't really big surprises, or it wasn't like tonal shifts. Wasn't like necessarily. Even the first season, where like it just became different movie. It just became a different Spielberg movie every episode. Where like this, it just was, I guess, tonally consistent, but not as surprising.
Yeah. Yeah, there weren't any big change. I did like it too. It's when they're trying to expose the girl's death. Remember the girl that died in the first season?
Barb.
And he's never really talked about it, and then it becomes the main catalyzing force behind this one older girl, the guy's older sister, to find out what happened. And yeah, you had to go to another town and talk to weirdos, and you know, nowadays you just do that on the internet. So that was and then Elle went to meet the other angry kids from that science project, and
Yeah,
they're just gonna kill people.
Yeah, I didn't really care for the whole.
It just seemed to be a holding pattern to me. It's like, oh, we're going to have this side story until we can bring her in at the last minute to save the day, which is what I was thinking when I was watching these episodes with her off in Philadelphia or wherever.
Yeah.
And then she comes back, and that's exactly, oh, it's like, oh, okay, that's, wow. Exactly what happened. Just had to have something to do to keep her out until she reunited with everyone before it all went sideways.
But the only thing I thought, I don't know, like what they were doing in the beginning, where like they go to the other world, and like it's just the guys in the suits, and like they pull a lever over there, and like, and then everything was okay again. I was like, are they like drawing power from this other world, or what the fuck was that about?
Yeah, one of the things I noticed and other people noticed is we really got to get an explanation about this underworld, about what its relationship to our world is, what the government's like, what are they doing with this shit, and
Yeah.
why do they, I mean, because if you found something that dangerous, it's like, yeah, let's keep poking that with a stick. They did mention something though. They placed it in its time period about. So why are you guys doing this? Why would you fuck with this? It's like, what, and let the Russians have it all? I mean, so they did imply like, yeah, we have to keep coming back here because otherwise our enemies would.
Oh, okay.
For whatever reason. That was Paul Reiser and the sheriff were talking about that when they had the kid in the hospital. It's like, oh yeah, the Russians, the Soviets were a thing back then. I mean, they still are, but they were a lot more Ming the Merciless back then than they are now. Now they're just our friendly neighbors. But yeah, Stranger Things was pretty good. I watched that. I mean, I guess I can say about that is it was pretty even quality. Like, I wasn't really super let down. I wasn't blown away, but because some people are like, talk about this like this is the second coming. It's like, whoa, it's an entertaining show, but this isn't like we're not breaking new ground.
Yeah. Well, it never did. It seemed to use less references this time around, or blatant theft of other material this time around, and try to be more of its own thing.
Well, the first episode, like you said, it was a homage to every Steven Spielberg film, and which Super 8 was in theaters. That was like, how many homages are we going to make to Steven Spielberg 80s kids adventure films? But they've I think they're finding something. I don't know. They say they're either going to explore that underworld more, or they're going to completely abandon it. Nobody knows in season 3, because they say there's like a huge Bible about what that world is and what they're going to do with it. Hey, what's going on? Want to come be live on the internet with everyone? Going to bed? All right. Have a good night. Okay. But yeah, so nobody knows which way they're going with that. they keep it vague. But because like the one guy said that, you know, they're actors, these kids aren't going to be able to play kids much longer. You know,
Yeah.
they're all getting older. And with a, you know, year and a half production cycle, they're going to look a lot older. So
The biggest one I thought was on The Wire. When they had those kids, they followed for like a season. And there was like this one gap. I think the kid who plays Duquan like grew like 3 feet.
Yeah. How are we going to come back to this?
It's like these 3 kids and a man.
You have to do a lot of forced perspective. And he went from being a cute little 8-year-old to palming a basketball.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this is a strange shift.
Which kind of like became an interesting element because it's like a part where he gets caught up in drug because like he was the one, his parents were like drug addicts.
Yeah.
And they like, if he had new clothes, they would like seal them and sell them. So he just couldn't have anything new ever.
Right.
His parents would just rob him. And he gets caught up with like other drug addicts, and he's like doing things with them, and like, you know, they don't really think of him as a kid. It's like, he's really tall and he can do things. Like, he's not a kid. Let's steal shit together.
It's just a tall tool we can use. I'm working on a new model.
Oh yeah.
We can have hobby break now. About halfway done with the I don't know if I showed you this before.
No, what is that?
This is the moon bus from 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Oh.
It appears in the movie. It appears in the movie like this. And there's a front and a back scene with it too. That's the one where they go to they find the monolith on the moon.
Oh, okay.
The thing that takes them there. I'd say it's about half done. The assembly's done now. I got to do all the weathering and stuff like that. But yeah, I thought it was interesting. I got that for my birthday from my wife. Thought it was it's actually a really good model. It's like, you look at it, you look at this, you're like, shit, they did a good job. It even has a back door, and but it's a reissue. It's one of those reissue kits because they issued it in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
But it wasn't really movie accurate. So this company,
Yeah, it's not, because Stanley Kubrick had all the models destroyed after the movie.
yeah. But they when they did them in the 70s, they just kind of based it on pictures and stuff like that. Where this company, they took the same dies, but they just incorporated all the detail on them because they had high definition studio photos that they could analyze.
Huh.
So they took the original dies and just retooled them to much more accurate. So yeah, this one pretty much, there's a few differences, but this one pretty much looks good. And it was fun to put together. It wasn't one of those ones that beat you to shit, beat you to death putting together. Like the best ones are still the Bandai models.
Yeah.
Like they just slide right together. Like, oh, this is crazy.
It's like these were meant to go together.
I've thought about building a Gundam model just to build one.
They're pretty fun.
Yeah, they look fun. It's not really my genre or style, but
No, but they get pretty crazy. But
yeah. But
and they're movable, which is like the weird thing. It's like, I made that. It's a toy.
it's a regular walking robot.
But I never got into like the weathering. Like, I can imagine like all the things you could do with that, especially like all the movement points and stuff like that. You could like figure out all that stuff. Like, this is how the wear pattern on this is gonna like work out and shit like that.
Well, sometimes I'll take. I've learned that in different countries there's different skill sets for modeling videos on YouTube, and like Japan, they have this crazy detail-oriented, and a lot of it I'm reading subtitles. But these guys are really excited. They're really putting models together, and then they're doing like insane, like, oh, this is where the joint pivots. So we're gonna paint 3 layers of paint on this. We're gonna paint a base layer, a second layer, and then the final coat. But then we're gonna chip down till we get to that base layer where it looks like the primer they put on before the paint goes on. That's where the robot's joints, like that's where the paint gets chipped. And And they're working on pretty small stuff too. That's the thing. It's like these are tiny things. They're just chipping away at it. It's like, oh yes, there it is. And there's this one Japanese lady, I forget what her name is. It's like Hiroki, or I can't pronounce it, but it's like Hiroki builds models, and it's just a lady. She has a webcam, like kind of in the upper right hand corner of her room, and she'll build like these Machine and Krieger models, all this stuff. Fucking crazy, great looking models. Should do it in like 45 minutes. Like the only breaks they're taking is now for the paint to dry, and then it goes dark and comes back, and then she starts doing the other thing. And it looks like shit that would like win any contest you put it in. And she's all speaking in Japanese. I can't understand a word she's saying. Some of it's subtitled, but that's the YouTube generated subtitles, which get kind of weird.
Yeah.
YouTube Translate, where it's like, I don't think that's what she said. But yeah, that's. And then you've got the European guys, which they're really good at military models. Like they do crazy, like World War II. It's like the Panzer technically had these kind of handles on the hatches, so we're gonna fabricate these out of styrene. and then everyone's good at like the tabletop game models. Like every country, it's like, this is how you make it look like glowing plasma with paint, and how you paint an orc army, and kind of the stuff that Andrew's into.
Yeah.
And then the American stuff the Americans are really good at fighter planes and cars. Like the classic cars.
Yeah.
Like they'll do things like they'll build this like perfect. There's not any weathering on a classic car though. You want it to look like it's at the showroom, but they'll do things for the headlights and stuff where they actually look like they have depth in the headlights. They'll use this technique where they scrape stuff off so you don't have all the chrome behind the headlights. But yeah, then they'll take pictures of them in front of a house, but it'll be a weird perspective because it looks like it's a real car on the street, and then they'll show the picture. It's just this tiny little car in front of them. Couldn't tell the difference, could you? Holy shit. So everyone's doing something around the world. And the Russian guys are really good at, like, you want to make old machinery, we're going to get some hairspray, get some pastel powder, and poof, poof, spray that with hairspray and smear it with our hands or a brush. And it's like, shit, that looks like a rusted piece of machinery. Wow. Actually, the Russian guys are good at a lot of stuff. They have a lot of techniques that don't involve a lot of tools or equipment. You can get some oil-based paints and just do things with a brush where it's like the Americans and the Japanese are like, how many tools can we bring into this? And but yeah, the Russian guys are like, you don't need all that shit. You get sandpaper and a putty, like they use like plumber's putty and stuff. It's weird shit. It looks good. It all looks good, but you can almost tell when you're just looking at them without any reference, just looking at pictures. It's like, oh, that's a Russian, that's a Japanese guy, that looks American, that looks like a British tank guy. I'm starting to be able to tell, like, oh, who's using what techniques. And
the Germans stand out anyway, or is that just included the whole European?
the European thing is kind of, they're all, I don't know how you'd say that. They're kind of in a product sphere of they're using a lot of the same stuff. Like a lot of the products they use, or because that's where Vallejo and MIG paints got really big over here, was that stuff was from Europe. And they'll have people that, like, this guy's job is to find out what was the color of a Spitfire in 1941. Okay, we're going to make a paint. This is Spitfire brown or Spitfire. Like, there's a guy who knows. And then so you paint the model and it's like, shit, that looks exactly like a reference photo from but yeah, there's yeah, all those guys in Europe are really good at it. A lot of the videos I see are from the UK, and those guys have some amazing techniques. And I'm starting to tell, like, regionally, like, oh, this guy's from the north of England, or this guy's from the south of England, because some of the terms and the way they pronounce words is like, what's that? Oh, he's talking about that. Okay. So I remember I was watching a thing, one of the best guys on the internet, or that I found, about it's how I make my decals on the model. There's a way to make them look painted on. There's several different techniques, but this guy was talking about this is the best stuff to use and this is how you do it. But he kept saying, today we're going to decal our models. And I was like, I wanted to learn about how to put decals on. Saying it so fast. It's like, we're going to get our decaling done. And I was like, he's talking about decals. He's just pronouncing it decal. Okay, that's really weird, but it works. But yeah, that's
Oh, how'd you like the gunslinger portrait I sent you?
Oh, that was pretty cool. I gotta find I'm trying to find right there. I'm trying to find a frame for that.
Okay.
I'm gonna put it up probably over here or over there. I'm not sure where. I want it to be visible in the background, but it's a kind of an odd size.
Oh yeah.
To find a frame, or I'm just gonna do like a border around it. I don't know how I'm gonna do it yet. I'll figure it out.
I saw that and I heard the Dark Tower movie was shit. So I was like, Nathan will enjoy this.
Been waiting for that Dark Tower movie for years. One in a 25 movie arc. Yeah, I haven't even watched that. I think that's on one of my services now. It's like, I'm not going to watch that. And the thing is, those are actors I like.
Yeah.
Idris Elba, that's a great choice for that character. It's like, he could pull that off.
Yeah.
Because he can talk like a fucking knight, you know, that's his background. He can talk, he can carry that kind of dialogue off. Because Roland talks like that a lot in the books.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, you know, like formal traditional talk. And it's like, oh, Idris Elba is the guy for that. And Matthew McConaughey is a dark man. It's like, yeah, that works. But yeah, it didn't work. I didn't watch it. I kind of can sense bad coming, especially when I know a body of work fairly well. Like I'm familiar enough with it to like get into the minutia of the characters. And they're like, yeah, we're going to tell the story in 90 minutes. Oh, this is going to suck. And who's the director? Oh, he was the second unit director on, you know, some Norwegian comedy. Oh, great. This is going to be awesome. You do a great job. I mean, actually, I don't know who the guy was. Maybe he's a great person.
He's some former foreign director. I can't remember what
Yeah.
he did before. It was something of like, oh, maybe this will work, and then no.
As soon as you heard the movie runtime, it's like, nah, you know, like that red lights going off. Like, this is going to suck.
Oh, what was the runtime?
90 minutes. Like,
Oh,
90
gee.
Yeah.
Yeah, didn't they try to cram like 3 books into that one movie?
That's what I heard.
Yeah,
fuck-
that's not gonna work.
Fucking Wastelands alone is 2 books. Just the third book, The Wasteland. You could probably do the Gunslinger and Drawing of the Three into one movie, because you could. I could see a lot of fat you could chop out of that. A lot of explanation, a lot of character exposition that works great in a book, not so much needed in a movie. But yeah, I mean, like you said, any one of those books is 2 movies if you once you get past the Drawing of the Three. But I mean, no one's asking me. I don't know how to make movies. I don't know how to do it, but I know what's bad. I can see bad coming. Yep, this is gonna suck.
I saw Happy as well.
Is that the one with the
Chris Maloney and Patton Oswalt as a flying unicorn horse.
yeah, the little
Imaginary
girl.
friend, yeah.
Yeah, little girl's imaginary friend.
She kicked
Did you see that Dakota Fanning movie?
the one she's like the Star Trek fan?
Yeah, and Patton Oswalt's the cop
Yeah.
speaking to her in Klingon. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Looks
seemed-
pretty weird.
Yeah, it could be interesting.
Or do you see that Alita movie? That new one? The Robert Rodriguez's new movie?
Oh, the
Alita-
Battle Angel?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw the trailer for it. I didn't know. That's some Japanese thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
'Cause James
Hold on.
Cameron's been trying to make that movie forever.
Right.
So I guess he just handed it over to Robert Rodriguez. That looks really weird.
That's that really fucking expensive animation too. Isn't that the one where, what was that movie they made years ago? The Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
It was a bomb, but it had that amazing, like, oh, this almost looks like people animation.
I don't know what they did. think
Yeah,
they're
it
just grafting onto someone's head and making
I
the
know.
eyes bigger.
I know it was expensive. That kind of animation's really expensive, I guess.
I
I
don't
don't
know. I don't.
Computer days.
I don't. You know, usually Robert Rodriguez like makes movies fairly cheaply, so maybe he found a way to make a $200 million movie for like $80 million. Because he has his own special effects company that he like runs himself. Because like he did all the special effects, or him and his company did for the Sin City.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I did know that.
Like they basically just filmed that movie in like a barn on his land, and then they did all the effects in his computer.
Money. He's the guy who has the rights to the Gap series.
He does? Oh, I thought that was like. Well, I thought that was like Quentin Tarantino, but that might as well be the same person.
Raising Hell Productions.
Yeah, okay.
But I don't know. I mean, people acquire the rights to things and it goes nowhere.
And apparently, the internet does a flutter of because Quentin Tarantino wants to make a Star Trek movie, or at least has an idea for it and wants somebody else to write it and direct it. And then Patrick Stewart's like, if Quentin Tarantino directs it, then I'm on board.
Okay, that could be interesting. Give it a shot.
Did you not?
I heard about it, but I
Okay.
didn't. I didn't know. It was just like, is this a joke or is this real or what does it mean?
That's probably real, but I don't know. It's like listen to Kevin Smith if you want to see like how many ideas Hollywood has and how many times that shit comes together. It's like
Yeah,
it's like 1 in 50.
pretty unlikely. It might be cool.
Then like people are like it'll be the first R-rated Star Trek film. I'm like, no, it'll never happen.
Yeah, that's what Paramount's gonna do. Just give this Reservoir Dogs treatment. Want characters telling dick jokes, talking about pussy, and everyone dies in the end. We want Michael Madsen to do that weird dance in a Star uniform, holding a phaser up to somebody's head. Are you done now? Are you done?
As he talks into Spock's ear as he cut it off.
Yeah.
Spiked ear.
That's what Paramount's gonna do. They're just gonna they're making another one with the Kelvin timeline. So
What's the Kelvin timeline?
the ones with Chris Pine and
Oh, okay.
Zachary Quino. They say they're making another one. So
Yeah, I figured they might. Well, actually, no, I didn't, because like I think each movie has made less than the previous one. So usually that's time for they just ditch. But I don't know. Fuck, maybe they sold a lot of DVDs. It's like,
Yeah.
if we just get one more together, then that box set's gonna be like $80.
such a passionate fan base out there. I just can't imagine it entirely go away. Didn't you say that's like those are like the wealthiest fans in the world?
Yeah.
Star Trek fans. Like, I want to build an Enterprise set out of my house. How you gonna do that? Well, I'm one of those tech billionaire weirdos. So
Well, it's because it inspired people to like become engineers and scientists and doctors and things.
yeah,
It's not like like the fan base of Dukes of Hazzard.
yeah. See, I was always part of this fan base of Dukes or of Star Trek, but you had the mentality of a Dukes of Hazzard, or at least the capabilities of. I couldn't even really make a fast engine for a car. I had no ability to fucking do math and science. Yeah, because Star Trek makes that look exciting and cool. It's like, I'd love to be a part of that. What am I going to do? Oh, you're going to load trucks the rest of your life. That's all you can do. You have no ability. We've tested you. Our tests say no. It's like, okay. I'll still think about it, though. Really, my favorites. My favorite. I like all the Star Trek, but really, like my favorites. I like the '80s Star Trek with the original crew, the movies,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
and not all of them. Some of them suck, but
No, it's just like Wrath of Khan and The Voyage Home.
I like the
and
most
Undiscovered Country.
I like the
I like the most picture. Yeah.
the only one I don't like is that one that Shatner directed. The
5.
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I saw that once, and that was it.
Yeah. I don't really like 3, but it's like it's a Star Trek movie, but it's just kind of it's like Khan and The Voyage Home are like so completely different and fun in different ways.
Yeah, the Undiscovered Country is good too.
Yeah.
That's kind of that was a good send off for the crew.
Yeah.
Because you knew they weren't all coming back for any more. And then the Next Generation stuff and that just kind of failed to launch in theaters.
Yeah, well, yeah. I remember I really liked First Contact because it was basically kind of like a zombie movie in space
Yeah.
with the Borg and everything. But it was basically an action movie. But then the Red Letter Media guys did a review of like all the Star Trek movies, and like it's like actually I guess I don't like any of these next gen movies because like it talks about like it shows like how contradictory Picard's character is versus like on the show. Where, like on the show, he'll like try anything to like keep people alive, and then here he's just like violently killing people. It's like I was a Borg. There's no way to turn around. And they cut to like episodes of Star Trek where like someone turns into a Borg and they manage to like reverse it.
Yeah, the Next Generation TV show was always pretty optimistic. It was a group of characters you cared about, but yeah, they're right. Those movies, they just turn dark. It's like millions will die, and it's okay. We got to get Worf back on the ship somehow.
But I want to go back and watch Deep Space Nine because I imagine I'll have like weird connotations now because I was always dealing with like, you know, terrorism and ideology and shit like that. But also it was just great because they won a bunch of Emmys on that show.
Oh yeah.
And like one of the it was like probably one of the greatest casts, not like ever assembled, but like it was a really like underdog cast of people because like the great thing about it is like you could hire all these like amazing theater actors who are never going to be in film because they're kind of ugly looking, but you put makeup on them and they're alien, it doesn't fucking matter anymore.
Yeah, they don't have to look like perfect people.
Like, so I always like because I remember coming across a DS9 again and like finding like Garrick, the character of Garrick, to be like kind of amazing. It's like I want to go back through and watch it because like his character has like he's just this like weird tailor, but then you find out he's like he used to be a spy and now he's just this weird like CIA agent. He's basically Burn Notice. Like that's basically what he is.
He's the Kardashian version of Cardassian. See, I'm mixing all up like shit up. It's the he doesn't have a big ass. Yeah, he's like kind of like the he's like a John le Carré character, which is weird because there's actually a John le Carré book called The Tailor of Panama. But yeah, he's kind of like someone who but he doesn't want to maintain his innocence. He can't wait to get back in the game. But yeah, he's like this weird guy. He killed a lot of people too, as I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, Deep Space Nine was good. Well, that's where Ronald Moore and the other guy, didn't they write and do?
Yeah, that because they wrote stuff on Next Gen, and then they gave them their own show there.
Yeah. That led to Battlestar Galactica, which was the last good thing they ever did.
I hear good things about that Outlander show. I've never watched it.
That's the one Mom likes?
Yeah.
Oh, Ronald Moore and the other guy are doing that?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
It's like in its third season. I hear good things, but I haven't really sat down and watched it. But it's like a series of books.
Yeah, they're huge books too. They're like 1,900-page books. They're huge. I saw them at the library once.
They're like a bunch of time travel shit and things. But not really time travel, just like this people end up in different time periods.
It almost seems like Assassin's Creed type time travel, but without that backstory.
Well, as far as because I think I watched the first episode and I heard the concept is like this nurse from the '60s just ends up back in like colonial times or whatever, or I don't even remember. Yeah, I think it's
Civil War. I think is
yeah, something like that. And then she basically has to be a nurse there, but then she has to like hide the fact that like she's from the future. Yeah. But then, like, some point...
Hey, doctor, when you wipe your ass with your hands, wash them afterwards before you do surgery. Why? Just because. Trust me on this.
For shits and giggles, you know?
Yeah. What's soap?
And I think at some point she, like, ends up back in the present and then, like, ends up going back. But I don't think she has any control over it. Or there's... but I haven't read the books or even seen past the first episode, so I have no idea.
Mom wants me to watch it, and I always intend to, but my kind of, I just can't sit down and like I'm gonna watch TV for 4 hours because like Stranger Things took me I mean, I watched the first episode when it came out, and it took me till last week to get through them all. So yeah, I don't sit down and just like I'm gonna watch TV.
Well, I think I feel like I think with Outlander is that I just don't. In all the things I've seen so far, there doesn't seem to be like fun to it. Like it seems like a pretty like serious drama with like interesting like sci-fi implications or whatever. So I'm just like, there's not a whole lot of drama as I just sit down and watch.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a book I read. It's actually 3 books, but I only read one of them. I think it's called Lights Out, and it's about people from the future, but they're like historians and they have time travel. But it's actual like linear time travel. It's not multiverse time travel.
Yeah.
So you got to be real careful when you go in the past and they're studying London during the Blitz in World War II. And they're from like 2038 or it's like far in the future. But they actually go through all this detail about this is how we're going to make your clothes. And you're going to have to take language classes for months because you don't talk like the people in, 1940s London. And, but yeah, they do end up changing things and it creates a lot of problems. And, but yeah, it was kind of like that. It was sort of bleak. People did have control. There was a method of time travel, but, sometimes they would just leave you back there because it's like, oh, they're causing so much damage, we can't pull them out now. Or there was some strange. I didn't read the other 2 books, but it was kind of interesting how they and they went into real fine detail about, okay, yeah, if you travel to the 1940s, you can't do this, you can't talk about that. You got to be very careful when you talk to people because even though you know exactly what's going to happen because you're studying history, that's why you're here. You can't allude to things because it could change everything and cause a lot of damage. So there was no going to kill Hitler or anything. It was basically just to observe.
Yeah.
Because it was actual like inline time travel, not multiverse where you could sort of do whatever you wanted to. But somebody saves a bunch of kids that were supposed to die in a bombing or something, and that really created a lot of problems.
Well, they had an interesting episode of Orville. It's season finale, where they find a multiphasic planet.
Okay.
So it's a planet that's phases between 2 parallel universes.
Oh, okay. That sounds weird.
So it'll just like come into existence all of a sudden in orbit in their universe. And then like when that happened, they were flying a ship out to like the anomaly and then the planet just appeared out of nowhere and then they crashed on the planet. And then like one of the crew, she interacts with she heals a kid who like falls down, and then they get up, then they get on the spaceship, they get it working, and they get off there, and then it phases out of the universe again. And then like, oh, what happened? It's like, nothing. And then it phases back into this universe again, but like what it's 11 days for them is like 700 years for the planet.
Oh, okay.
So they see their effects that they have on the people. So then they have to like try to fix things because now like the lady Kelly, she healed a kid and now she's like a deity on this planet.
Oh. Yeah, somebody had a funny meme about that. About the guy's name, Seth MacFarlane.
Yeah.
Like only Seth MacFarlane's like, fuck you, I'm gonna make my own Star Trek The Next Generation. People were talking about that because I know you said that too. It's like, this is very similar to the 80s and 90s Star Trek The Next Generation.
Oh yeah, exactly. It's almost exactly the same except for the weird humor.
Yeah. Oh. Well, we're gonna do a show tonight. We're gonna talk about the best things of 2017,
or at least our best things.
At least our best things.
Like you don't necessarily it doesn't necessarily have to come out this year, but I'm not sure. I think everything I picked came out this year.
Yeah, well, for movies, I really haven't watched a lot in theaters this year, but I have watched some, and then I've watched some stuff at home that I enjoyed a lot too. I guess one that I liked and I don't know when this movie came out. I assume it's 2017. Was I watched Get Out on?
Yeah, it came out this year.
I watched that on at home, and I was surprised. It was like, oh, this is weird and frightening, and it has kind of these all this social commentary stuff that like you'd think people would it would make people uncomfortable, and it does. It's like, oh, it's all in this movie. And like especially like with race relations and stuff, and just a weird, scary idea of
Also, just like just a comedy guy basically made like a Stanley Kubrick psychological horror movie.
yeah, yeah, because this movie, there's a lot of standout things in this movie. It's not just like, oh, it was a great script. It's like, oh, it looks weird, it feels weird, the acting's well done.
Yeah.
The story's just frightening. It's like the ultimate co-opting of black culture. It's like, oh, we're just gonna take the bodies of black people over.
I like they did a Q&A with him where people are like bringing up like theories and stuff that they had, and like, did you mean that? And like there was like a couple of them is like, yeah, I meant that. But then everything else, there's like stuff with the deer, because there's like the deer he kills at the beginning, and then also like how he kills people with the deer at the end, and like that's all symbology and stuff like that.
Huh.
Or the fact that he saves himself by picking cotton.
Yeah, there's all kinds of weird stuff. Well, it's just, I think the actors in this did a great job.
Yeah.
And they really make a weird, kind of frightening. It's like, something's wrong from the word go. You just don't know, like, which way is this going? And then you find out, and it's like, holy shit, that's crazy. So that was one I watched at home, because I heard a lot of people talk about it. And it's like, yeah, I'm going to have to watch this and see if this is the phenomenon they say it is. It's like, oh, yeah, it actually kind of is. And what's another? Oh, Dunkirk I saw.
Yeah, I still haven't seen Dunkirk.
It's a good movie. It's worth seeing. I mean, it's like it's like the ultimate war movie in some ways, because it shows people just how scary that is, because it's about the when they fled, the British army basically fled from France through Dunkirk, and they were really looking at losing most of their army if they didn't get them out of there, and just how frightening it was. And so that was a really good movie, and I enjoyed that a lot. I haven't. I'm trying to think of other movies.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of other movies, and I'm suddenly going blank as we're having this. Like, I know my one, but like I don't know my two or three.
Well, Thor Ragnarok was good.
Yeah, it was good.
Recently, well, not best of the year by any means, but it was a good movie. There's some movies I haven't seen that I'd like to. Like that Weight of Water looks interesting. There's Shape of Water.
Yeah, that looks pretty good. I remember being really surprised by Kong Skull Island.
Yeah, that was a good.
That was like visually like amazing, surprisingly incredibly violent.
Yes.
And like just a better interpretation of like King Kong than I expected.
Yeah. Another home run for Samuel Jackson. Like, that guy can just play evil so good. Not even really evil in this case, just kind of driven mad.
Yeah. He's like trying to prove himself, but he has nothing to prove.
Yeah.
But it's like, hey, my guys died. Like, we got to get something out of this.
It's like, how does this guy gonna fight King Kong? Oh, well, there is a way, actually. You're just demented and crazy. But yeah, that was a standout one. Guardians of the Galaxy 2 was good. It was kind of like Thor. I enjoyed it the same way for the same reasons.
Yeah.
Like sort of went a different direction with
I
it.
thought it was like what's weird about it is it's mostly a character piece than really like any kind of overall story.
Yeah,
It's a lot of good character moments, but it doesn't really necessarily like, come together as like a great story. But it still works.
yeah, it was good.
That Spider-Man movie was pretty good.
Never didn't see that one. Not really a big Spider-Man guy.
I think what really makes it work is what's his name? Michael Keaton.
Oh, okay.
He's probably the best villain in any of these movies
Oh, okay.
because he's a guy you can relate to.
Yeah.
Because he's just like in the beginning of the movie, he's picking up, like he got all his equipment together to clean up New York after it was destroyed by aliens.
Mm-hmm.
And then some other company comes in and is like, yeah, we have the contract, fuck you. He's like, I just bought all this shit. It's like, well, we don't care.
Yeah.
And so like he takes this alien technology and like he sells it on the black market to basically keep his guys employed and keep, money going for himself and all that stuff. It's like you can
Gotta believe
understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not just evil for the sake of evil. Trying to keep food on people's tables. But yeah, I didn't watch it. I will eventually. I'll get around to it. There's a lot of, we were so busy starting with football camps all through the football season. There wasn't a lot of movie time.
Yeah.
I did make time for the movies that were important to me. As far as books this year, I'm listening to Artemis and I'm reading Persepolis Rising right now. So I'm not through those.
What's Persepolis Rising?
That's the latest Expanse novel.
Oh, is that out? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Just the fifth that came out.
Oh, okay.
So I'm 25% of the way through with that. It's interesting. It's taken a turn. I mean, it's I'll let you read it. Don't worry about it. No sense in it's well written and very enjoyable, so I don't need to explain it. So you can read it. You'll like it. Artemis is good. Rosario Dawson is reading it to me.
Yeah.
Very good actress. So I think she captures the spirit of the character pretty well.
Yeah. Yeah, like, because R.C. Bray, R.C. Bray, I think is his name. He did the narration for The Martian. Like, some people were like giving it like 3 stars. It's like they didn't get R.C. Bray. It's like I don't think R.C. Bray would work for this.
Yeah, for a female lead character.
Yeah.
They could do it BBC style and get a whole cast. Do Lord of the Rings. It's like where every character has its own actor for an audio presentation. How much would that audio book be? $500.
They have some of those. There's a specific category you can get it. Because I got the
Yeah, they have. It's called like dramatic presentation or something.
Yeah, it's usually BBC stuff because it was the one I can't remember what it's called. It's like Ghostland Stories or something like that. It's a I can't remember that guy's name. Neil Gaiman. Short story collection, and it's like it's done. It's like 8 people or 10 people are on the cast.
Oh, those are cool.
Yeah.
But it sounds to me like old timey radio.
Yeah.
Because we're more used to audiobooks where it's one person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that thing that kind of entertainment I think lasted longer in Britain than did here because you have like stuff like The Shadow and things like that where they did presentations like that. But like in Britain, like I think the first kind of isn't that the first incarnation of
Doctor Who?
Well, that what the hell is that movie? Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Didn't it start out as like a radio play and then he like turned into a book and stuff like that?
I don't know. That's possible. That sounds possible. Well, see, the British have this thing too where it's like the Japanese. It's where everyone works. If you want to work, we got a job for you. Nobody makes a lot of money, but everyone works. So yeah, they'll do stuff, especially with acting.
Yeah.
Like people will get jobs over there. You're like, what? Who's this fucking guy? What's But like you said, they don't care about Hollywood standards. It's like, hey, can this guy act? Yeah, but he looks weird. Yeah, let's do this. Almost every Doctor Who Except for David Tennant's a beautiful man, but yeah, a lot of those guys were just kind of strange looking dudes. But yeah, that's
Some books I read. I know I really enjoyed The Disaster Artist, but I don't think that came out this year.
the book.
Yeah.
Yeah, for my books this year, I'm gonna have to say, I'm gonna call this the year of Neil Asher, because everything I've been waiting for to come out. Well, we did have Revenger, which was kind of an interesting sideline for Alistair Reynolds, doing kind of young adult fiction in a sort of a strange universe, a lot less hard sci-fi and a lot more adventure orientated, which it was good. But I'm just going to have to say this year I probably read 12 Neil Asher books, because he has this whole body of work called The Polity. And yeah, so I would say probably this year. And he did have books come out this year. What was it called? Because one of his big books came out this year. Oh, Infinity Engine came out this year, which was a follow-up, was from his Transformation series, which is part of the Polity universe. Which is, how many books are in the Polity universe? 4, 7, 10, 15.
Jesus Christ.
And I've read them all this year, and I even read stuff. And those are the series. Then there's another 15 that are like, or not 15. I'm sorry. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 is a prequel. So there's like 21 books total, and I've read or listened to. I've been through 21 Neil Asher books. I've hit them all, because I did Hill Diggers and The Shadow of the Scorpion. So yeah, I basically gave Neil Asher about $500 this year in books.
Then I think the last of the Bobaverse books came out this year. As that ended.
Oh, okay.
There's only 3 of them.
Yeah.
They could have done 20 if they wanted.
Yeah. Sometimes you got to know when to say when. Some of those get. See, the nice thing about the Polity books, it's not all the same characters and people.
Okay.
The series is like the Agent Cormac series, which there's 7 of those, 6 or 7. That's all centered around one guy, but the scenarios are wildly different. They kind of circle around the same stuff, and then like the Transformation series, that's one guy in the same universe at the same time, but a different adventure. And then like Hill Diggers and The Journey of Sable Keach and all those are books also in the Polity universe, different time though. Sometimes they're earlier, sometimes they're later. He's a good writer. He doesn't like fat people though. I sense a lot of prejudice in his writing towards fat people. Of course, there's no fat people in the Polity universe, because you can just be torn apart and put back together by an AI if anything goes. People are essentially infinite. They live forever there. But after 200 years, they become psychotic because there's no challenge. There's no like death looming. So it's like, I don't have anything to achieve. Fuck it.
What was the last thing Richard K. Morgan did? I feel like he just disappeared.
Was it The Cold Command? Oh no, it was part of one of the Land Fit for Heroes books. I don't know. Let's look. I don't know what happened to Richard K. Morgan, because I didn't really like the Land Fit for Heroes.
Is that the Steel Remains book and stuff like that?
Yeah. Richard J. Morgan? No, K. That's weird. Richard J. Morgan Interiors.
Because I felt like he had like a moment like 5 years ago where he's like starting to do a bunch of Hollywood stuff. Like I think he wrote like, well, not really Hollywood, but like he was getting into video games. Like he like wrote the synopsis for Crysis 2 and things like that. And I think like his stuff was starting to be adapted into TV shows and movies, but then just like nothing happened.
Yeah.
Like all at once, nothing happened.
Yeah, I don't. Oh shit! No, the last. The last of the Land Fit for Heroes was The Dark Defiles. That was in 2014. The last thing he did was that. Wow, okay. Because he did Crisis 2. He did Syndicate.
Okay.
He wrote the story for that. And then The Land Fit for Heroes is going to become something on Steam.
Okay.
So it's going to become a video game.
All right.
So he's basically been working in video game entertainment. So he's still doing stuff. He's not doing, I mean, like Altered, the Takashi Kovac novels were so good. And even Black Man, or 13 is what they call it in the United States. That was pretty good. Market Forces was weird.
But
yeah, Richard Morgan was one of the greatest like tech dystopia writers.
I remember we did we lost our show on Altered Carbon, but I remember we were just like waiting around since we've been doing this podcast for them to like turn that into a movie or something, and just nothing's ever happened.
They've done scripts, they've done preliminary stuff, but yeah, I mean that's
but
one
yeah,
of those...
this is gonna be the year that kills like sci-fi,
yeah,
sci-fi movies. So, because I forgot the other sci-fi flop movie this year, Passengers.
Passengers was a bomb. Prometheus. Well, I talked about it on the show and I've forgotten about it. Not Prometheus.
Alien
Covenant.
yeah.
Yeah. It's like that had all the hallmarks of being a good movie, but ultimately just forgettable. Kind of like Prometheus. It's like I watched it, I was entertained. I see no reason to revisit it though.
Although watching that Death Stranding trailer, like I had like weird Prometheus vibes where I was like, is this what I wanted from Prometheus? Maybe.
Yeah, it's like I told you I texted you back when you had me watch that tonight. I was like, this is just beautiful nonsense. There's nothing you can string together from this that's going to be coherent. It's just cool looking. It's a lot of LSD film. What's the production cycle on that now? We've been hearing about it for 3 years.
Yeah, 3 years.
And every year we get some weird trailer with Norman Reedus doing something weird, and
yeah, that seems
Guillermo
right.
del Toro running around with a baby, and the other guy, the Swedish guy,
Mads Mikkelsen or Michelson or
Yeah.
Mikkelsen.
Is he Swedish?
It's some European thing.
So, yeah, one of those Euro trash types. Yeah.
Well, that's a great. Yeah. He was hanging out with because that trailer premiered a thing called the Game Awards, which is kind of like the Oscars for video games.
Mm-hmm.
And so Hideo Kojima showed up with Norman Reedus. He was hanging out with him there because he's like the spotlight of the episode. But also Hideo Kojima's been hanging out with Mads Mikkelsen like on Twitter. Like they're just like eating lunch together, taking selfies. It's like what's just weird. Hideo Kojima just like has no clout to just hang out with Hollywood actors all the time.
Yeah, he's kind of like the Stanley Kubrick of video games, isn't he?
I'm not sure what sense you mean that, but I guess
Just esoteric, kind of artsy, but also like approachable stories, but with a lot of strange elements that you just sort of go with. Like, yeah, okay, let's see where this goes.
sure.
Like all the Metal Gear Solid is just okay. This is a basic story, a guy fighting. Like, oh, now it's getting weird.
Well, I always say especially with the Metal Gear Solid series, pretty much it's all he's done. I mean, he's done some other things, but it's kind of almost this James Bondian stuff, but it's also a mix of Tom Clancy and anime at the same time.
Yeah,
It's just like it has all this because like you'll spend like those codex calls, you'll spend 12 hours, they'll explain like what an AK-47 is. Like all that information is true. He's not lying, but then they'll have like a guy who shoots bees at you. It's like, well, obviously this isn't true.
yeah. Yeah, they have. He always seemed to be like there's a lot of off the wall stuff, but there's a lot of good stuff. So that's why I'd say like he's because like a lot of stuff Stanley Kubrick did, like yeah, this is all based on something.
Yeah, I don't know.
Especially like 2001 was like yeah, they talked to a lot of people about space and tried to visualize what it would look like and be like, but then they had these other earthly, otherworldly elements and you know like 15 minutes of spoken dialogue in the whole fucking movie. It's like yeah, that's why this is kind of like a video game of that.
I don't know. It's like I don't know. In some ways, Kojima's almost like the ultimate fan. That's why I wouldn't necessarily like equate him with Kubrick because you know Kubrick was so elusive.
Yeah.
Where Kojima is just more like obtuse or indirect.
Yeah.
Like there's a genius there, but you can't tell it from the outset. Because I mean, like I don't know. Some people say about like the harshest criticism he gets is that like Hideo Kojima is just a failed film director who never got a chance to make a movie, so he made video games instead.
Yeah. Well.
But like and like some of his video games like had almost like half of the video game was cutscenes. It's like he was just making a movie and the game was incidental. But I don't know, like some of the stuff he does is genius. A lot of the details in there. It's like, why is this in here? It's like that costs thousands of dollars to put this in this video game. Why is it here? It's like it's here just for you to find it for yourself.
Journey of discovery. Taking a voyage together.
But and also I don't like. Also, we're hearing how weird Konami was the whole time, but they're just willing to give him a blank check because every game he made more money than it did the last time. They're just willing to give him like 5 years of development time. So he's just earned that right. This might be his last thing if this doesn't.
Yeah, if this is either going to be in the magnum opus or the Yakuza are going to put him in a shallow grave.
Because I remember like people just talking about like like because it's a Sony like is fronting this thing, like they're putting up the money for it. It's like they're like there's no way Sony's a large corporation. There's no way they're just going to give him a blank check and not expect anything in a timely fashion. But hey, we're 3 years in, so we'll see.
Yeah,
I mean,
Sony's also a very American company too, in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
it's run by a lot of Americans. Some people we have a weird tolerance for that in some cases, and then sometimes we don't. We'll just ruthlessly cut it out too. So,
but they might be doing other stuff with like, because I know the engine they're working on is it's another company that they own called Guerrilla, and they make like the Killzone games, and they made that Horizon Zero Dawn game this year.
Okay.
So they're using that engine, so they don't have to make their own engine, so that might cut down development time. But they might be like fucking around with that engine and helping other people out. Because I know he does a lot of cinematic stuff, so like that could be, this could be more like of like. You're making a game, but will allow you to fuck around with it as long as it ends up helping other developers with this engine or something.
That could be.
But we'll see.
We'll see what happens.
Whatever it is, it'll be interesting.
Yeah. To find out about it. But anyway, I think for movie of the year, for our final pick, or my final pick, I have to say it'd be Blade Runner for this year.
Yeah.
Spiritually, that's kind of where I'm at.
It's probably the only. I've seen other movies twice in the theater, but this is like the first time I went to a theater twice for a movie in probably like 15 years.
Oh yeah, I do that very much myself. I think I did that for 300 was the last time.
Oh okay.
It's just like, oh, this is so weird. But yeah, I'd have to say that was probably the movie I looked the most forward to seeing and wasn't disappointed.
Yeah.
When I saw it,
which is a really hard thing to do.
Yeah.
Because like this has a lot of expectation, It's like, well, this can't do nothing but fail, right? Like even the director said, like,
It was like, man,
well, the first one's a masterpiece, so this can only be a failure.
yeah, I think it was lovingly handled, though. I think they actually had a lot of respect for the original one, and weren't just trying to cash in, and they didn't. But they,
But they
yeah.
did their own thing, at least story wise. I mean, like, they were, slightly adjustment on the visualizations and a slight adjustment on. Well, I guess you could take or leave the soundtrack. It was kind of a weird thing. But I guess it was kind of last minute too, because they had some other guy doing it, and then they.
Well, they had the
him.
guy. Yeah, the guy who did the soundtrack for. He's worked with, because he did the soundtrack for Arrival, and he did the soundtrack for, what was the one about the Mexican drug cartels?
Sicario.
Sicario. And I think he's worked with this director on other things. The story I heard was that was like a studio thing at the last minute, because they wanted Vangelis to do it.
Is he still
But
alive?
Yeah, he lives in Greece somewhere, and he said no, because I don't think he does much work. He says, no, I can't. I'll just give you the same soundtrack. It's like, I can't redo Blade Runner. That was hard, and it was a masterpiece, and I'm not going to try to redo it. And they had this guy doing it, this Nils Johansson or whatever. And then I think at the last minute, they're like, no, we need to go a different way, because I think the soundtrack was a lot different than what was finally produced. And then they went with this one, which, I mean, it's not a bad soundtrack, but it seemed really loud to me. But you said a lot of people complained about the IMAX presentation where they had the soundtrack way too loud on Blade Runner.
I still love the soundtrack regardless.
Yeah.
But I remember people having somewhat of a problem with it. But, like, hey, I bought the fucking thing, so.
Yeah, it's not horrible. It goes good with the. I'm waiting for the Blu-ray to come out. I'm gonna rewatch it. But yeah, I just, it was a great movie. I said it on the other podcast when we talked about it, why we liked it. So, but yeah,
I was a really big. Like, one of my all-time movies is Drive, and Arrival is really fucking good. So this is like Drive meets Arrival for me, and it's Blade Runner. So.
Arrival, yeah.
Drive.
Yeah,
It's amazing that, like, because Arrival came out last year, right?
Yes.
So
I think.
It's pretty amazing that this guy can basically make my favorite movies 1 year after another.
Yeah, he's got a bright future.
Well, he's doing the Dune movie next.
Well, there goes that.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Well, yeah. The only problem is, like, I think most of, like, like, Arrival, like, it was very critically well accepted, but it didn't really do that hot box office, and of course neither did Blade Runner. So, but I don't know, I think people are willing to take a chance on him because his movies are very well received. So
yeah, Dune's always been one, because I love that book in particular. I like all the Dune books, but Dune, the original Dune by Frank Herbert, was such an awesome novel. And then David Lynch perfectly visualized it without capturing enough of the story. It's like, oh, this is what Dune looks like. When I read Dune, I think of the David Lynch movie, and it's fine, but it would be a fucking shit show to watch if you didn't have any knowledge. The Dune movie was never going to interest you in the Dune novel. It was, or you're going to come up with a really bad impression. It's like, who reads this crap? So yeah, I don't know how he's going to follow up to that, but I don't know how he's going to follow up to Blade Runner either. So, because you already have a pretty established Dune look, even though the movie was dreadful. Visually, it was amazing. And I think it captured a lot of the ideas well too. So I don't know what he's going to do.
Maybe he's just going to take all. He's just going to take all of Jodorowsky's stuff, make some weird '70s half porn Dune.
The half porn. Well, Dune was steeped in the drug culture of the 60s and 70s. That's all that book was a love letter to fucking LSD. The spice expands consciousness. Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, okay. I'm doing some Kool-Aid acid test here. But yeah, it's like to see where that goes. I mean, they tried to make that movie and been trying to make that movie forever.
Well, they had 2 miniseries they made for Sci-Fi.
Yeah, they got a lot of the details. And the first one, who was that guy? He's the British. He always plays the British cop, the interrogator. He played Vladimir Harkonnen. He was actually a pretty good Vladimir Harkonnen. But yeah, the Dune miniseries wasn't bad. Except John Hurt, I think, was Duke Atreides. It was something weird like that. Like they had one big star, and then a bunch of BBC actors. And the budget, I mean, they couldn't make a great looking movie, but they did okay.
Oh, you're talking about the miniseries?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So yeah, Blade Runner 2049.
Yeah, it's movie of
Both
the year.
of our movies of the year.
Yeah, no disagreement there.
Then we want to do book of the year?
Well, like I said, for me, it's the year of Neil Asher. So,
But which one?
well, the one that came out this year was the what was it called? Something Engine. Where was it?
The
Oh, no, I'm on
Infinity Engine?
Richard. Yes, it was Infinity Engine.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah, I'd have to say I enjoyed that book the most so far of all the ones I've read this year.
Okay.
So far, but like I said, I'm listening to Artemis and reading Persepolis Rising at the same time. So we'll have to see what happens there.
Artemis is my book of the year, but it's kind of just it's a fun book, and it deals with a lot of interesting sci-fi concepts and interesting social things, and like we're like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like the whole slug things, and just how cops work there, where it's like you basically have one cop to patrol all the moon, and like they don't really have a police station. It's just kind of like, if you do bad things, we'll deport you back to Earth, and then it'll hurt because Earth has a lot of gravity.
Yeah. Yeah, I like how I do like how they operate in this, like these federal free trade zones or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like there's no laws, there's no rules. There's just expulsion is the punishment.
Also, like, I remember they were talking about, I can't remember what it's called in the book. It's like the Kenya something company or whatever.
Yeah.
And I thought, is that just a name, or is this actually like a part of like the Kenyan government or something like that? And they explain, like, it's like, oh, like Kenya, like the equator became important real estate for like shuttle launches, and
Yeah.
Kenya just cut all the red tape and just let everybody, it's like, and then it became the center of like, that's a neat idea. It's like, I bet some country is going to do that when space travel becomes a thing.
Oh yeah, it's just a free fire zone, no tax. Well, it's like some of the plants I work in. I have worked in. If you're doing a joint venture with a foreign company, which some Ford plants are, it says right out front of the building you're entering a federal trade zone. And like if you get caught with drugs or something in some of those places, a lot of people don't seem to understand this. You're going to be prosecuted under federal law because this is a special tax exempt zone they've set up for this joint venture or whatever. And yeah, there's some of those things. Yeah, you got to watch it. But yeah, that's interesting. Those are real economic concepts what they're talking about.
Yeah, and I just like the blending of not near future sci-fi. All this stuff's pretty believable. It's fun. It's whimsically written. Not whimsically, but it has humor to it.
Yeah.
There's action. There's all that stuff. It's really like what Andy Weir does. So I really enjoyed it. And Rosario Dawson just like kind of elevates it in some weird way.
Yeah, you believe her as this kind of strange, stateless person, essentially raised on the moon. Kind of operates in this weird world. I like how their habitation domes are named after the Apollo astronauts.
Yeah.
And they have a lot of stuff like that.
Armstrong bubble.
I knew that thing about the flags, but that was kind of interesting. It's like, oh yeah, I forgot about that.
What thing about the flags?
Well, the first American flag planted on the moon when the limb took off, it got knocked over in the blast from the engines.
Yeah.
It got covered with dust. So all the other flags, they put them much further out and anchored them deeper. But now they would look like white pieces of fabric because there's no atmosphere. So everything's being exposed to raw sunlight. So it would just blanch everything. So the only American flag really left on the moon is the first one that got knocked over because it's covered with dust. It's like, oh yeah, I heard that before.
Well, it's also interesting to talk about the dust itself, where it's like, where they're like, yeah, like how you have to get rid of it. It's like, oh, like, yeah, it's just dust, but there's no weathering, so it's all just barbs and spikes.
It'd be like breathing in asbestos cigarette. It would just destroy your lungs. Yeah, it's a very good book so far. I'm about a third of the way through it, so, but I find it enjoyable and endearing because it's read by a good actress.
I think it's I can't remember. There's something to do with welding later on, because you need a shielding gas to weld, but because there's no oxygen on the moon, like, but there's but they still, or it's like inside the facility, instead of using like one of the
instead of nitrogen, instead of argon, they use
like neon or something.
Because it weighs less, it's easier to shoot up. Yeah.
I like those details. Like, oh, because it lays me. Yes, that's why we use it. It's like, yeah, it's a very practical business thing that would happen.
Yep. And there's no oxidation or rust on the moon. And the radiation you get is it's basically sunlight. Solar radiation, which on the moon could be really harmful. But I like how I don't know if the commentary in this thing is like anti-union or pro-union, because all the guilds control everything and they lock people out, and like this lady's dad is a renegade welder, but he's so good they tolerate him, but he's not in the welders guild. And then the spacing guild, they're not called the spacing guild, the people the EVA people,
yeah.
they won't let her in. And it comes to circle around to like, oh, do they want competition or not? So I don't know I don't know which way they're going with that. It'd be interesting to see.
Also, like, they get to her kind of how desperate she is, because there's like a thing where you can't be homeless on the moon.
Yeah.
And there was totally a time where like she didn't have a home. And it's like illegal to be homeless, and you can be deported for being homeless.
Yeah, everyone's got to be productive.
Yeah, there's also a whole classism thing there too, where it's like, because like all their money comes from these like sex tourism and stuff like that. It's like, let's go have sex on the moon. It's like, we got money, we can just fly up there and do that. But like, it has to be supported by this, these middle class people that know how to like do things to keep the station alive.
Right. Yeah, I like how serious they are about fire, and
Yeah.
oh yeah, that would absolutely be true. Because
are you an EVA trainee? You are now also a volunteer firefighter.
And by firefighter, we mean you're going to put up tunnels and get people out of their oxygen shelters, and yeah, so it's good so far. I like the story. So yeah, as far as like music and stuff, I'm totally not current, so I don't have an album of the year.
Let's see, my lead up to my album. So I really like the Arcade Fire album that came out with. At least I really like one song, and I listened. I haven't really gone back and listened to it. It was a pretty good album. They got like three or four like hits on it, and then the rest of it's like pretty well. I really like Arcade Fire stuff, anyways. I'm not sure if you ever listened to any of their stuff before.
Doesn't sound familiar.
They have I want to say they have two. I know two. The Suburbs is a really good album, and Neon Bible is another really good album of theirs.
I've heard of them, but I couldn't name a song of theirs.
I have yet to, but I'm sure it's great. There is a Queens of the Stone Age album that came out this year.
Oh, okay.
But I still have not yet listened to it. Also, I really like the soundtrack for Blade Runner.
Yeah.
But my album of the year would have to be Add Violence by Nine Inch Nails.
Oh, okay.
It's an EP, but yeah, fuck it.
Yeah. Take what you can get.
Yeah. I just really like that album. They oh, I'm completely forgetting the single from that.
Less than?
Yeah, Less Than.
Yeah.
It's a really great pop song. There's actually words because it seemed
Yeah.
like Nine Inch Nails has like gotten away from like having words in their songs, so it's well written. The other like 3 songs they're pretty good too. They're pretty memorable. I really like the end song, which I can't remember the name of it right now. It's like 8 minutes long.
Yeah.
Because there's like this beat at the end of it. It loops over and over again for like 4 minutes. But each time it goes through the loop, it loses degradation to the point it's just static at the end of it.
Oh, okay.
But I really like that song, and that's the end of the album. Plus also all the weird things that came with the album, where it's just like all these stickers that say "Add Violence" or the weird like layout of the machinery and the buttons and all the stuff like that that comes with the album. The weird accoutrements and stuff like that.
Doesn't have that weird dust in it, does it?
No, that was a previous album.
Yeah. The Dust album.
These Are Not the Events, I believe that's what it was called.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had that on repeat, like on my drives to and from school, like for like a month this year. So it's pretty much my album of the year.
Oh, okay. Well, good. Very good.
We just got video games left?
Yeah. Well, that's going to be mainly your thing.
Yeah. Did you even play a video game this year?
I did play the some of the
Wolfenstein?
yeah, I did play that. So that was pretty good. I played the Battlefront 2 a little bit. The Star Wars
Okay. Yeah, I just skipped that one.
story. Yeah, I mean there's nothing, nothing
Well, the
earth-shattering.
only thing they had the weird controversy with the loot boxes and stuff. But the only thing I was interested in was the single player, and then I heard that wasn't really good.
Oh, okay.
It was like it basically has some interesting elements that they never like come together with at all.
Oh, okay.
So it ends up just being just like a collage of Star Wars scenes and action scenes that don't necessarily coalesce into an interesting story.
Oh, okay.
Because it's fun that the main actress in that I can't remember her name. It's like Janine and something. She's been a guest on Giant Bomb a couple times, and she also did like there's a Star Wars book out there right now where it's like 18 different people like read different chapters, and like she did a bunch of that for that too.
Oh, okay.
But yeah. So is that like the only 2 games you played this year?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
The only 2 I can remember.
Yeah, it's a hell of a year for video games this year. It's like every month there was like, it's like, yeah, that's like game of the year material, and it just kept going on and on. Because I remember like it started with Resident Evil 7, like that was really strong because like Capcom's been putting out shit for a while now. It's like, and the Resident Evil 6 was terrible.
Yeah.
And so like this it was in first person, like it wasn't the same story again. So it's like, well, they're resetting things. We'll see how like that was really well done. And then February you had Horizon Zero Dawn, which like artistically is amazing. Really cool concept. Really neat sci-fi story. Don't necessarily pull everything off, but it's still neat otherwise.
Yeah.
Some things got a little too long in the tooth, but whatever. It was fucking amazing. Then after that, things get blurry. I think in March that was my biggest like letdown of the year was Mass Effect Andromeda.
Oh, okay.
I fucking love the Mass Effect series, and I tolerated Andromeda, but then I just fell off of it after a while. Still really neat. It's still really a neat universe that they need to do like more things with.
Right.
But EA holds a license, so it's dead now. They'll never do anything with it.
That where hope goes to die.
Yeah. Uh, um, and, the Switch came out this year, and they had a lot of good things. So, but basically, my game of the year, and Wolfenstein 2, it was up there. That was probably my favorite story of the year. Like they tried a lot of different shit. Definitely the most effective. Because someone was talking about how it draws this line between exploitation and like drama. And like they're just on the right side of it.
Walking that line.
So yeah, that was definitely really affecting, and like probably moments of the year was in that game for me. But ultimately, my game of the year would have to be Zelda: Breath of the Wild.
Okay.
Because I love just wandering around in games and like finding areas and seeing if the game programmers like put something there. And Zelda was like just a great game where like if you just wander around, you can just find shit.
Yeah.
It's like, what's this? And like there it is. And then like a lot of the stuff you find are like there's like these puzzles in the environment that do things, and if you figure out that's kind of fun. And then there's like these dungeons you go into, and you have to use all these different like time skills and physics skills and stuff, and you have to solve these puzzles. And it's like, and every dungeon puzzle is very very different, and like uses all the techniques in different ways and ways you never thought of before. And there's great YouTube videos of all the weird shit you can do, because there's one spell you use called stasis where like it locks things and it like freezes them in time kind of. And then you can hit them, and then like this giant arrow comes off of it and shows like, and it'll be different degrees, and it'll like, so when the stasis spell ends, it'll just fly off in that direction with like all the power you hit it with behind it. And so there's like people doing shit where like they're grabbing these boxes, doing stasis on it, hitting it a bunch of times with their sword, and then just like grabbing onto the box and just flings them halfway across the map. Just it's a great sense of exploration. Everywhere you look, you just like, I want to go there, and you fucking go there.
Well,
and you just like surprising thing. Like there's an island you can find where it's like they take away all your shit, and you have to find a way to beat these bosses in order to get the stuff, and like, it was just really cool. Yeah. The only thing bad about it was like the last boss fight and sort of the story at the end didn't really come together, but yeah, it's a pretty amazing game. Put like 100 hours into that thing.
Well, with all your other commitments, that's pretty good.
Yeah. Also, Mario was really good this year.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, that's a
Mario.
Huh?
Another good year for Mario.
Yeah, it's like, that's kind of the thing. It's like, this might be one of the best Mario games ever made, but it's like every Mario game's like the best Mario game ever made. So it's like it's hard to like make it stand out. Or like the Zelda game is kind of completely different from every other Zelda game, because it's more like Skyrim.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. This is sandbox games.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm forgetting all the great games. I've been playing a really weird game.
Oh, what's that?
Too. Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy.
What's that about?
So you're a guy in a cauldron with a sledgehammer climbing a mountain.
Okay. in like a cooking cauldron?
Yes.
Okay.
And you can only move the hammer, and you have to basically use physics to fling yourself up this mountain. And it's really easy to lose like all your progress.
Oh.
And like, so like when you advance forward, like the programmer, the guy who made the game, will like talk to you about stuff. And then also if you lose progress, you'll get these little vignettes of like, like loss and failure and trying to get back up again, or there's like quotes from Nietzsche and shit like that.
All right.
And occasionally there's just what do you call that? Some music that's royalty free music.
Oh, okay.
Playing weird royalty free music that's barely has some sort of theme with like falling or climbing a mountain. Yeah, that's a really weird game.
What's that one called?
Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy.
Okay. I have to look at some YouTube videos on that.
Oh, yeah, there's a 3-minute speed run of it out there.
Okay.
I think it took me 9 hours to beat it. At least that's what it said it took. I may have like left it running. might have. Oh yeah, but yeah, it takes a while to learn how to play that game.
Okay.
It's very simple, but incredibly hard.
All right. Well, I think we're at our wrap point now.
All right.
Well, I didn't have anything else. Did you
have an appliance of the year?
Just whatever I gotta buy. Keep the place together.
Yeah. Did you have a documentary of the year?
I can't recall.
Yeah, I've only seen those. I'd probably say that Jim and Andy documentary. I haven't seen any important documentaries, but that Jim and Andy one's pretty crazy.
I'm staying away from news and news type stuff for this year. Probably the next 3. So.
All right.
All right. Well, this week for the American Greed Factory podcast, this is Nathan.
This is Colin. Goodbye, America.